that's another message that I preach to people. It's never too late for you to get into the industry. There's never a ceiling of how far you can go. And there's always some kind of way that you can achieve what you need to achieve. And it might not be the conventional route. You might have to climb some mountains, but you can always get there.
For over 3 decades, Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs has been empowering the next generation. Through youth manufacturing camps, inclusion initiatives, and student scholarships, NBT has inspired young minds to embrace the limitless possibilities of modern manufacturing. As this dynamic industry continues to evolve, so does NBT. Something big is coming, and we can't wait to share it with you.
Hello, I'm Dan Davis with the Fabricator Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. My co-host in this very special episode of the Fabricator Podcast is Andy Flando.
Thank you.
Publisher of the Fabricator.
Thank you. Yes.
And the Welder.
Tube and
Tube and Pipe Journal.
Yeah.
So in today's episode, we have Drew Crowe from the new American Manufacturing Renaissance. The hammer behind Nammer.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. MFG.
We're going to chat about his work, his background, and where we are in terms of helping position manufacturing as a good choice for up-and-coming young people or people looking to make a transition. I think it's a really good conversation. I thought it'd be a good opportunity. We're here at IMTS as we record this, the International Manufacturing Technology Show. But at one time, I think it was metalworking technology. So obviously a big trade show for a lot of people in the manufacturing space. Andy was actually closely involved with the metalworking world for a while. How many years did you spend selling American Machinist advertising?
American Machinist, I started in, I can't remember if it was 95 or 96 when it was owned by Penton Publishing.
Yep.
And I left there in 2002 at the heyday, the height of American Machinist.
So how old was the title when you were working on it?
It started, gosh,
is it close?
80s? We could probably look it up.
So yeah, it's older. It's more than 100 years old, correct?
I believe so. It was. Yeah. We had an anniversary when I was there. I can't remember what it was, but we celebrated. It was like big to do here at IMTS when we had that. Again, I can't remember the year. We'll have to look it up and see what year that was.
What was it again?
American Machinist Magazine.
That's the big to-dos. They all got tuxedos with ruffled shirts.
We did.
And
well, I
top hats.
believe we had something over at the Drake Hotel. I can't remember.
Published since 1877.
Wow.
So at 120, must have been 120 years. It was probably 120 year. What was the year that Sosa and McGuire?
98.
It was that year we sell. Well, I'm not sure we celebrated. We had a party at the Drake. I think we were trying to start like the Metalworking Hall of Fame or something back in those days.
Oh, that didn't come through? Sosa's not a member of that either?
No.
This is a cover from 1921.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's Endeavor owns it. It's still around. Yeah. I don't think they publish it.
Yeah, it's a website, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of their manufacturing portfolio at Endeavor Business Media.
Yes. It was quite the magazine. Very popular. It was right up there with Modern Machine Shop and those days.
So Modern Machine Shop's still around. I think I actually played a good, important role in the rise of Drew Crowe.
Yeah.
Manufacturing spokesperson.
Yeah, I was sitting on a live podcast, like panel discussion, and they kind of gave him the floor to talk, and that kind of changed the trajectory of like his career.
That was the talk with Doug Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, our guest is speaking at IMTS in a presentation from the street to the C-suite.
Yeah.
And he actually used that phraseology during our conversation. I had no such cool alliteration like that or rhyme. So,
but you do remember the Fat Boy lyrics.
Dan's
little beatbox. I think the beatbox comes in at the end, so you'll have to tune in for that.
He's a silver spoon guy.
Yeah.
Dan.
Ricky Schroeder's?
No, well, you grew up in Lapper luxury.
What?
Yeah. There were no streets. They were paved in gold for you.
They were nice. They actually came through quite
Paved
often
in
and paved
gravel?
our street.
Paved in
Nicely
gravel.
paved street.
He's country boy.
But I think in Louisiana you have to pave the street a lot because it just melts.
Yeah.
All right.
So before we get to it, let's do a rate, review, and what?
Rate, review, and roast.
Yeah.
Or roast.
Yeah.
So yeah, we found out that sometimes people just like to be ugly on the internet. So we want interaction of all kinds. So
Well,
if you want to
we posted a reel recently about like letting ChatGPT roast the Fabricator's Instagram page.
Yes, and how'd that come through?
It said proof that even a magazine can have a midlife crisis.
Whoa. So
Ouch.
I don't know why they would
Literally-
say such a
So
thing.
every time you put in a request like that, 2 trees in Amazon fall.
Yeah, right.
So good
Wow.
job.
Wow.
Or we can just ask live people to leave it. Anyway, please send us some information. My mom wants to know what y'all think. Anyway, so enjoy this episode of the Fabricator Podcast with Drew Crowe. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Discover your path to leadership excellence at the FMA annual meeting, February 25th to the 27th in Chandler, Arizona. This premier event offers a unique opportunity to connect with prominent figures in the fabrication and metals industries, enabling the exchange of ideas, collaborative solutions to business challenges, and the cultivation of strategic relationships. Visit fmamfg.org for all the details. And now, back to the episode.
Welcome back. I'm Dan Davis with the Fabricator Podcast. Today, joining us is Drew Crowe of the New American Manufacturing Renaissance.
Look at you.
The hammer behind Nammer.
Let's go. The most famous grill in manufacturing, I've heard.
Also, St. Louis Cardinals fan. We can get into that later. All right. So we're doing this at IMTS. You've been coming here for a while, I think, right?
Yeah.
Give our audience a little bit background about yourself and your connection to the metalworking industry.
For sure. So I actually got into the industry on accident. Like the industry found me. I was a teenage father, 2-time felon. Before I was 18, I had a 3-year-old and 2 felonies and just really no direction. I'm from St. Louis, so like all the bad stuff that you see on the news, that's the neighborhood I'm from. And there wasn't a lot of good examples. The school system wasn't well funded. There weren't good jobs. So, we kind of just did what we had to do to survive. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was good at. Teachers weren't really like engaging me. They weren't from where I was from. We didn't really speak the same language. They were underpaid, so they were just trying to get in and get out. And I understand that now later in life, but I didn't know what I could do, didn't know what I could be, didn't know what was out there besides the normal stuff that I saw. And the streets are always hiring, right? So as a teenage father, I didn't know I'd be good at math. I didn't know what an engineer was. So I hit the block hard and I got hired. And, those jobs, I laugh about it now, but they end up in death or jail, right? And luckily for me, I was in a cycle of getting locked up, getting back out, going back to what I knew until I eventually got tired of it. And my young son that was about 4 when I was 19, I was locked up and he called me. We love football. We were watching Monday Night Football. I had to fight somebody to get the remote, had to fight somebody to get on the phone and hold the phone. And I was calling him and it was first quarter and he was like, Dad, let's watch the whole game. And I was like, man, we can't. You got to pay for phone calls.
Right.
And they turned off at a certain time. And the lady on the recording came on and she was like, you got 1 minute left. And he just broke down crying. It was like, Dad, make her stop. And I knew right then, like, I can't, number one. And number two, I knew that, in the position I was in life, he was going to be right here next to me watching this game in prison with me if I didn't do something different. So as soon as I got out, I just started putting the word out, who's hiring felons? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the answer was pretty much nobody, but a machine shop. Someone told me about a machine shop. I went in, they had a job on the saw, cutting raw material that paid, I think, like $16 an hour in the recession. And then a machinist job that paid like 19 or 20. So I told him I was a machinist. He made me take a test. He saw that I was not a machinist. But on the backside of that test were like measurements. So it was like a thou, a quarter, an inch, like an eighth. So I knew about 3/8 and I knew about quarters, from the street. So I did really good on that side. So they were like, yo, you can cut metal. And if you want to be a machinist, I'll get you there. So the first time that somebody actually told me that I could be something was actually in a machine shop. This guy didn't look anything like me. I was the only black young guy in the shop. He was an old country boy from the boondocks of Missouri. You know, I'm from Missouri.
Yeah.
Two different places, but he understood that, you know, I needed this job. And he also knew, being on the other side, what manufacturing careers can do. If you put your head down, there's no ceiling. So started off third shift, coming in on the saw, and I walked into a manufacturing plant for the first time. And it was like that movie where the guy gets locked in the museum and everything comes alive,
Yeah.
right? So I never knew that this side of America, or just the world, existed, that things were being made and machines were making them, and we're talking to the machines and telling them what to do. And, you know, it's something that starts raw can get cut down to something this small, and now it's functional. And the things that I was making, I was helping make non-contact bearing isolators. And these would go in tons of applications, but one of them was in turbines for fighter jets. And we were working on the A-10s. And that was the first thing that I woke up every day and I felt like I was an American. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, before that, I didn't know what my point of being here was. Like, just every day, I didn't know what my purpose was. But when I got that job, somehow I convinced myself that, you know, our country wouldn't be as safe if I'm not there on time, doing my best to do something as small as cut metal slugs down, right?
Yeah.
But that was so important to me. So I started coming in. I was never on time for anything in my life, but I would come early because I wanted to meet the guys on second shift and, you know, have them know who I am and, you know, kind of talk to them. And then I would stay late and try to learn what these other people were doing. So bought a lot of coffee and donuts for the old Polish guys. They taught me how to run manual machines, and then opportunity opened up on CNC machines. So I got to hop over there. YouTube wasn't big at the time, and we definitely weren't represented in that space. So I got an old machinist manual, and I would just read every night and just take as many notes from guys that would let me learn from them. Eventually moved up to programming. They sent me to multiple colleges and stuff. So this paid for bachelor's degree, 2 masters. I went to MIT, and my life has definitely been saved by manufacturing.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Man, that's quite the path.
Man, yeah, and I'm still writing new chapters every day. So it's ongoing, you know?
So what advice would you have for someone who is maybe looking for that path? And the thing that jumps out to me is, like, you understood the people part of it.
Yeah,
You know what I
man,
mean? Like, I
absolutely.
don't think, like you mentioned, just showing up on time. I think that's a challenge for a lot of people.
It is, man. And at the time I didn't know what I was doing, right? I didn't know that I was investing into my own self and the company by coming early and learning. It's just that, you know, the environments that I had been a part of, it was like, okay, what am I gonna do for this hour? Be on the block, maybe get shot, you know what I'm saying? Or be in a shop where there's something amazing going on that, like, I see this stuff in my sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, I just wanted to learn more. So couple of the things that I tell people to do is, you know, number one, have an open mind, right? Manufacturing, our careers, fabricating, everything. We're in everything. Everything that we're looking at in this room, we're speaking in mics, we're wearing clothes right now that was touched by our industry, right? So I was a professor for 4 years at the local college. We did engineering and manufacturing associates and bachelor's degrees. And I would have kids come in, and before they told me anything about their excitement about the field, or I want to be a welder or a machinist, or I want to do automation, I would just say, what do you like, right? What do you like? One of the kids was like, man, I love roller coasters. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, I don't think I could do anything in this field in roller coasters. But Six Flags has a machine shop, or you guys are, what do you guys have? Gurney Mills,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right there, yeah.
So they have a machine shop in there. So his internship, I was able to place him there with Six Flags. It's a union shop, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And he gets paid well, and he's still there to this day.
No
So
kidding. Huh.
we're in everything that people love, right? My son's at University of Memphis Engineering School right now, and he loves sneakers, right? And one of the things that we do right now, digital twins are huge. Non-destructive testing for like the military, but they're doing that in textiles and stuff now to see, you know, when shoes will break down, what new materials will do. So he's making 3D designs and 3D digital twins for Nike and stuff like that. So I really tell kids, man, find what you like and then find your pathway to that with careers in manufacturing.
Yeah. Do you find the message gets through because you're more representative of maybe an underrepresented class when it comes to manufacturing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. I think another thing is like this is the culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, we were talking a little bit off camera, but you know rap. You grew up with rap. You knew rap before I was born. So rap's just as much as yours as it is mine, right? I'm a strong believer in the culture is gonna raise our kids no matter what, right? So you can go to the sticks, you can go to the hood, and they're probably listening to the same things. They're probably liking the same things on Instagram. And I think for our industry, I kind of represent the culture and that newness and kids get to see not necessarily like maybe someone that they can relate to, but they can hear the language. I can make the things that we're talking about relatable, and then they could see like the authenticity. Like my goals are permanent. So, when I work with Blue Forge and I work with the DoD and I work with Jim, the big three up in Detroit, and I'm sitting at these tables with the CEOs and with government officials, like these don't come out. You know what I'm saying? So kids are seeing it. They're seeing me be true to who we are. And then they're also seeing like you could be successful no matter what you look like and where you come from. And I think having that inspiration and that hope, really makes them be able to lean into the message
Yeah.
that we're given for sure.
You said, was this 2008-9 period when you were
Yes.
talking to your son from the jail?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So my takeaway from your story is, I mean, your real main motivator at first was your son, right?
Yes,
Your love
no,
for your son to make sure
100%.
that he had a better life than you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people kind of sometimes hear my story and they think some of these moves were instant, right? And, coming back to the realness, it didn't come until he was like 4, so I
Yeah.
wish I could be that guy that said, I looked into my son's eyes and I knew I had to change right then. And sometimes change doesn't happen that quickly and the transition doesn't happen that smoothly. But when it happens, you got to be ready to act on it. And you got to be ready to say, hey,
Yeah.
whatever this new thing looks like, I need to go at it, right? So when I go talk to school, I got a tour, right? And I tour in pretty much any city that will have me, but usually, major urban cores. So St. Louis, Chicago, Cincinnati, DC, Baltimore, you name it, we're out there. And I get in front of these kids and they're like, it's different because you knew what you wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I couldn't tell you like I was going to work in aerospace. I couldn't tell you that. I didn't even know what that word meant. And sometimes knowing what you don't want to do will get you to where you do want to be, right? And knowing that I didn't want to continue doing the same things that I was doing. I didn't want to hang on the block anymore. I didn't want to, I didn't want to do those things. I knew something in me was better and bigger than that. I just didn't know what it was, but you got to be open to receiving, to be able to say, hey, yo, okay, I'll go into a machine shop, And I'm glad it was a machine shop because it could have been anything. Like at that point, I would have done anything to put legal money and food on the table. I would have shoveled elephant stuff at the zoo. You know what I'm saying? For my kids to see me doing something noble.
Yeah. Do you find that having that, once that opportunity was available to you, do you see that being another important part of this whole story?
Yeah.
That, you mentioned knowing what you didn't want to do, but sometimes you don't know what you want to do until you actually have an opportunity to see that.
Right. And sometimes you don't even see opportunity as opportunity. So even going into this situation, I just knew that they were hiring. I didn't even know machinists or, I was the saw boy, affectionately known as the saw boy, but I like to say material technician. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I didn't know either of these things, what they were. I didn't know what a pathway in manufacturing career looked like at the time, but I was open to doing it. And then it was important when Donnie Ogle said to me, I can make you a machinist. So that immediately made me feel like this isn't it for me. Like, this is my job right now, but there's another job in here that's for me too when I'm ready to get it, and they're gonna help me go there. So knowing that someone in there believed in me and that knew that I could still be, I thought that was the top. Like, okay, I got a job. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
now it's like oh, I can get you here. And then once you're done there, you can go to these classes, we'll pay for them, and then we'll get you here if that's what you want to do, right? And so knowing that there was that opportunity to continue to go made me stay and made me, buy in more. And that's something that I talk to employers about right now. It's real obvious when you go to these conferences or when you look online. Everybody's talking about workforce, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a buzzword right now just to get likes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not everybody's doing
And
something
there are
about
people
it.
doing that.
No, there are. There
Yeah.
are. And it sucks because it's watering it down and we don't have real direction. But for the people that are doing it right and the people that are really putting an effort into workforce, we're seeing the ROI not only in more people getting hired, but more people staying in companies and skilling up, right? So we're watching people come in like I did at, a lower tier position, but, in 3 years, they're tier 2, tier 3, or they're even running new machines that the company didn't have because they didn't have anybody that had that level of expertise and that time to put in. So, it's something that I feel like we shouldn't just talk about, but we definitely got to be about and, give actionable steps for people to be able to walk that path and giving kids or giving job seekers an actual career pathway, a real clear way to do it. And then, the resources to be able to get there and be empowered to be the best that they can be is what's going to keep manufacturers with their shops full.
Yeah.
So how based on your history that you told us, how great was that feeling that somebody showed confidence in?
Man, I if I wasn't a gangster at the time,
Yeah.
I probably would have shed a tear, man.
Yeah.
But I just remember like that was the first trip home that I took that I didn't have the radio on. I just drove home in complete silence and it was the thing that made me feel like, okay, I am on the right path, because justice impacted individuals are usually in a place where they lacked resources and that's why they committed a crime, right? And once they pay their, debt to society in time, you get out and you have, costs that you've incurred that you have to pay, right? And then you have to pay when you see your PO. So you're already financially in debt. And if you don't have access to a job that can help you pay your rent,
Mm-hmm.
help you pay your PO, help you pay your restitution to the court, then you're going to backslide and you're going to be right back there. And that's why manufacturing jobs, to me, are the most important to people that are re-entering society because it's the only thing that's going to pay you enough with whatever skills that you have to keep your lights on and fill your refrigerator up for your kids so you don't go back to those things that are familiar in the streets to supplement the income that you have. So, the justice impacted community is somebody that I work with a lot. But then again, any work that I do with communities, I do the equal amount of work with industry, right? Because face it, we're manufacturers, right? A lot of us are coming from mom and pop shops, which is the backbone of America, right? Second and third generation shops where all they know really is these machines and this part that we make or this job shop that we do. Traditionally, the sons and the young men would go into the shop or into the engineering room and they'd send the wives and the daughters into HR or into, front office. And that HR person wasn't necessarily an expert on hiring or recruiting and retention. They were an expert on insurance, right? Making sure we pay out the lease, right? And it's cheap enough for us. So we're trying to undo generations of that. And at the same time, we're trying to also make sure that people come in and see these things as jobs that are worth having, right?
Yeah.
So I got workbooks out, and I think that education and training needs to happen on both sides. So the communities need help getting the lingo, finding the skills, connecting with places that can help skill them up. And the industry has to say, okay, how do we prepare ourselves to support people from these places and make them, the next Drew Crowe or, whoever it could be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that companies are being responsive to this approach. And the reason I ask that, it seems like the people that worry about workforce typically have the issues dealing with their own workforce.
Yeah, yeah,
what I mean?
yes.
The ones who get it, I think, are trying to do those pathways and be a little bit more considerate of growing their workers, not just hiring them.
Yeah, man. So I think it's again, we're in a weird space where like there's a lot of people that have it in their mission statement. They talk about it because it's cool.
Yeah.
But the action isn't behind it. It's a lot of like performative stuff, right? No substance. But I think the ones that are making a concerted effort, they're making the investment in getting new people and the people that they have at the shop, right? They're doing things like making sure worker voice is heard and respected. Those are the shops that aren't having these problems, right? And a lot of times, you know, feedback that I was getting when I first started out was like, oh, Drew, you work alongside Boeing or you work alongside like Caterpillar or John Deere, and there's like these major companies. I'm a mom and pop shop. I don't have the budget or I can't do this. And a lot of this stuff is free. You know what I'm saying? It's just a small tweak in the business processes that you have currently. Or it's hey, I'm going to give this guy 4 hours every Friday to go to the local high school and go be that SME subject matter expert for our industry. And then, you know, as a ripple effect of that, he's got our logo on. So now when the kids are wanting to know more about this or where they can go, it's right here, right? So there's small investments that aren't necessarily financial that can get you really great immediate results and get that ball rolling and bring you some of them finances to be able to allocate to some of these other programs. I go to, when I first started out, like kind of back to the earlier question you asked, and we talked about the culture, right? When I first started out, I was only in like St. Louis and Chicago, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the hood because, you know, this will work in the hood, right? But then I started getting the calls from like the Kearney, Nebraskas and the Columbus, Nebraskas, right? And they'd be like, yo, Drew, we want you to come out. We'll pay you more than your asking price because people are like asking for you specifically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, no way, bro. Like, not out there. And I came and auditorium is packed. Kids in Wranglers and cowboy hats leaning in, listening to every word that I'm saying, right? And immediately I knew that, like, you know, this is a message that all of America needs, no matter what they look like, no matter where they come from. And people just want good jobs, man, and we've got them. So, you know, it might take a little bit more for us to bring the trade to the people because the people used to come to the trade.
Right.
But it's worth taking that first and second step to be able to get out there and get it in front of their faces.
Yeah. Your resume is really interesting to me because you talk about pathways. And I think one of the things I like to drive home to at least people in our audience readership is that a pathway doesn't stop at that first job.
Man,
and man, like you, it's quite impressive, to be honest with you, because you've done kind of front office sales, nonprofit leadership, consulting, I imagine, along that way. Touch upon that and what has been some of your favorite highlights over the years?
Paying my bills. You know what I'm saying?
Getting on in life.
It feels good paying bills before they do it. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's real. I think that's real.
But I mean, I think really I've been blessed because I've always just given everything I've had to whatever that job was. So when I was on the saw, I cut that metal like I was getting paid $1 million for every cut. You know what I'm saying? And I got it to those machines like this was my company, right?
Yeah.
And I've always had that mindset of anybody that I'm working for, anybody that I'm working with, anybody that's taking a chance on me, I'm going to give them more than what they thought they were going to get from me. And if I don't know how to do that, I'm going to ask them and I'm going to get, you know, skilled up, or I'm going to be dedicated enough to where I'll get the skills that they need to give them what they're asking for and beyond. And I think that at first I would stand on my ambition, but then my work started talking for me, right? And when you approach your work in that way, I found more opportunities come, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the very first time I keynoted was, can we say other names of magazines?
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
As long as it's the right one.
Depends on the magazine, yeah.
Modern Machine Shop.
Yeah.
Okay. They were doing a podcast that was like going across America or Make It in America or something like
Yeah.
that. They somehow found out about me while I was still teaching. And I did the last episode with Doug Woods and a guy from Oak Ridge Institute. I forget his name, forgive me. But I guess that had the highest listenership in all of the
series.
the
yeah.
series.
Yeah.
And so that year at their Top Shops conference, they said, we want to do this live to close out the show. So the very first time I spoke, it was myself on stage with Doug Woods, president of AMT, and the president at the time of the Oak Ridge Institute. And so I was too ignorant to know how big of a moment this was. So they would ask me questions, or they would ask a question, and I would answer it. And eventually, like, Doug Woods was like, yo, he's the future of manufacturing. And he ceded the questions to me. He's like, let's hear what Drew has to say. And I walk off stage and, well, we got a standing ovation, of course. And I walk off stage and there's like a ton of people. And they were like, I don't know what you just did, but nobody talks before Doug Woods talks. And the fact that he just ceded to you in front of all these different people, your life is about to change right now. So shout out to Doug Woods, shout out to Top Shop, shout out to Modern Machine Shop. I've never filled out a request for speaking. I keynote all of the big conferences. I haven't stopped working since that one show.
Wow.
And it's just a testament to the work, right?
Yeah.
So I get up there, I over deliver, and then it turns into another job or another referral, and you know, I'm blessed. That's all I can say.
You did the work though.
I did the
I
work.
think that's the
yeah.
thing. You mentioned some of these other front runners out there kind of hopping on the workforce thing, like we need more tradespeople, and you know the extent of it is just likes on LinkedIn.
That's
you know
it,
what
man.
I mean?
That's it.
So you bring it from the standpoint of like, wait, I'll just go back. You know, you did the shop floor.
Yeah.
You worked in the front office. You programmed. You've taught. And to me, that's like, I think that is kind of the last point for like somebody who's looking to get out of manufacturing and maybe kind of do something. But you've worked for the vendor side of things.
Yeah, man.
So I mean,
it's
a tight window. Don't get me wrong, because you're still a relatively young guy. But do you feel like that resume, that authenticity, maybe stands out a little bit more than maybe some of these other people trying to push the message?
Yeah, I think so. And I think one thing that really, really differentiates myself from them is that there was no example for me to follow, right?
Yeah.
So there weren't a lot of people like we were having studies. Deloitte Manufacturing Institute was always putting out like, yo, pay attention. But we weren't, I don't think, talking about it at this rate and this extent. And I think that my grandma used to say, you got a Chevrolet, right? And we didn't have a car. So she was like, you got a Chevrolet. And I was like, what is that, Grandma? You got to shove one foot and lay the other. And that's just what I've always done. You know, I've always walked it. So it's nothing that I'm going to tell a student to do that I didn't do when I was in the field. So they respect that out of me. And then they get the results and then they go talk about it, right? There's students of mine that have been in my program that are now like influencers and that are popping in the world because of the work that they've done. And like, you know, I started a tour. Like I didn't have anybody that said, hey, Drew, this is a company. We want you to go out on behalf of us. I got the money that I had, the money that I could scrape together, the money that I would get from keynoting. And I said, there's kids that are in the position that I was in 15 years ago. And when they had the opportunity to say streets or something better, there was no opportunity or option of what that something better was, right? Mm-hmm. So I get out in front of those middle school students, those high school students, and I say, yo, here's an option, here's an option, here's an option, and here's how you can connect to it. Once you do that, this is what you can do. So we hear a lot of these people talking workforce, but you don't see them actually with the workforce, right?
Yeah.
You don't see them with the colleges. You don't see them, you know, in the shops bringing people in or helping guide tours, you know, and whether I get paid or not, you know, I don't make any money on my tour. Like literally every single thing goes to paying for lunches for kids, giving scholarships for kids, doing a show. I fly out a DJ. I got smoke machines and like it's like a hip hop. It's like some rap. You know what I'm saying? So
time to get the old timers out.
we're bringing the culture. So my thing is, man, if people aren't willing to do this without getting paid for it, if people wouldn't do this without one like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think they're real and you shouldn't be following whatever advice they're giving you. And it's probably something that they saw from my page first and reworded. You know what I'm saying?
I don't mean to hop around on you since I'm new to the podcasting. But you had mentioned
let's go to the judges. Okay,
we're
okay.
You had mentioned
Right.
MIT.
Yeah.
And talk about that. What's your connection to MIT?
So it was actually non-conventional, right? So I knew that my company had money set aside for reimbursement, right? And I had my master's degree and I did a remote course with SUNY Buffalo for digital design and engineering, right? And so I was like, well, if I can do that with SUNY Buffalo, it's got to be somebody. Shout out to SUNY Buffalo, but it's got to be somebody that's like more prestigious doing this as well, right? And at the time, MIT had a remote mini master's class. You do the mini masters. If you can complete the mini masters, then you can use that and roll it into credit for an actual program. So I went the non-conventional, long, backwards route, backdoor to do it.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's just what you got to do.
What you got
know
done.
what I'm saying? Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's another message that I preach people. It's never too late for you to get into the industry. There's never a ceiling of how far you can go. And there's always some kind of way that you can achieve what you need to achieve. And it might not be the conventional route. You might have to climb some mountains, but you can always get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Also an MBA holder from
Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
same, man.
Hey, yo,
I know.
So
Big game.
you saw what we did the other
I
day.
did, yeah.
Collective we, man.
Come on, man.
That's
Let's
it.
get it.
The entire country saw what they
Let's
what
get
they
it.
did.
Let's get it.
Yeah. Even the folks at Notre Dame were like, we just have to sit back and let them enjoy it on our own
Come
field,
on.
you know?
I had
Come
to bring
on.
that up. So,
Pretty cool.
So you're involved now with trying to develop a digital curriculum?
Yeah. So actually, and this is news for you guys
There you go.
podcast because I just saw my
Insert breaking news sound
I
effect.
just saw my developer. So I'm working with a team called Standard Data. They just graduated from Y Combinator, if we know what that is. So Y Combinator is the startup accelerator that did Airbnb and
Okay.
Twitter and Uber and like all of the cool technology that we have right now. So they're recent graduates of Y Combinator, and they are traditionally data scientists. So they work with big data, machine learning, and all those different things. And we got together to put a workforce recruiting, retention, and skilling up app together that we will be launching hopefully at the end of next month. It doesn't have a name yet, but that's the next step. So for me, I'm not the guy that says, yo, workforce. I'm not the guy that says, hey, let's do awareness. Let's get people aware of our careers. It's like, okay, once they're aware, then what? Right?
Yeah.
Like, the manufacturers, let's just not tell them like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. Well, if they could do it themselves, they'd have already done it. You think people want machines sitting, not making them any money?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So obviously we haven't reached a point to where we've been able to pull the two things together. So, with all of the different angles that I've been blessed to work in, I've got a different, approach to this thing. And I wanted to make it easier for manufacturers that may not know anything other than manufacturing to hire the best people that are the best for the positions that they have available. And then also give them one place that they can skill up, right? So within this app, say you're an employer, you've got jobs opening where Gareth is, right? And you can look on the map, you can click that particular job, and there'll be 5 or 10 hot people around them. And you can click on each one of those people. It'll show you the percentage that they're ready to take that job right now. And then whatever percent that they don't have, it'll have the skill up application, the things in the app that they can skill up and get certified to be 100%, right? And then it starts them on the career path for the next job in your plant. So Gareth can say, hey, these are 3 jobs that I'm open for right now. This one has a 4-job progression, and these are the certifications that I can get. This one only has 2. I think I'm going to call these people. I'm thinking I'm going to do that. So
it's kind of like LinkedIn for manufacturing jobs almost.
This is
or more specific than that.
Way cooler though. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Do the kids put their qualifications in? How
Yes.
does that work?
So right now it's working 2 ways. So our beta test, we pulled live people right now on LinkedIn that are ready to get working right now.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got about 20 to 40,000 users on there right now, just from LinkedIn, where we pulled their profiles, we pulled their relevant education and some of the other non-transferable skills that job scrapers don't find. Right.
Right.
So if you've had military experience and, you're, maybe higher up, then you can definitely run a machine shop. Right.
Yeah.
But some people don't know how to speak to that. So they can do it that way. People can upload their own resumes, but something different that we have is we've got a prompt where you can just talk to your phone. You can just have a regular conversation. And as it pulls these things out of you, it's building your resume for you in the background. So you don't have to come with a resume. You don't have to know how to write a resume. You just have to know how to talk to a friend, and we'll fill out all the rest for you and match you with all the local jobs that match your profile and what you have, and then connect you with certifications and skills that are going to get you that job or the next one that you want.
Yeah.
Is it more focused on the worker as opposed to the employer? Because as you're describing it, it seems like it's a great kind of pathway for someone to start developing like a human resource kind of a tree, if you will, for their workforce.
So we're looking for this is both sides, right?
Yeah.
So like I said, everything that I do, I try to look at it from the lens of both sides. And then, be the thing that helps them both. So on the workforce side, this is going to give you more skills, more qualified people. You're going to be able to match people in positions. Somebody might think they're a machinist, but there might be a better position for their skill set to be working in, right?
Yeah.
And you can line that up and then say, hey, if you'd like to be a machinist, we'll put this in the system with your current skill set. And then it'll give us the courses that we need to help you get there, right? So you as an employer don't have to do that work for yourself and like, oh, how do I help this guy? Let the app do it. And then you can follow along. If there's any people that are doing things on their own in their own time, they can track it within the app as well. So you can see, oh, this guy's got an aptitude. He's really getting into this 3D design stuff. We need to maybe get him on some Mastercam in here. Or we're looking for a guy that does 3D printing. Or we're looking for somebody that can do this. Then you get to see all those different things. Another thing that we have is we have a retention problem, right? So when I talk to people outside of our industry about, hiring, they're always like, well, why don't you just pay them more? You know what I'm saying? It's like, we've tried that. They'll come in, they'll get a couple checks, and then they'll leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the retention is one of the things that we really want to work on. And that goes back to that pathway thing that we were talking about, right? If I've got a clear pathway from the shop boy to foreman, then I'm more likely to walk that thing down and become that, right? I'm going to stay in this place because not only do I have a clear path of advancement, I see the certifications that I need. They're helping me get those certifications all right here in the same place. So it's like Donnie Ogle told me, you want to become that? I'll help you become that. And that's where you get that loyalty. That's why I wanted to stay there. Nobody else was going to give me that love that Donnie gave me, right? So we're recreating that right there in the app. So we're helping with retention. We're helping with people skill up and find better positions within the jobs that they have. Or we're helping people find new careers because maybe they came from tech. Tech has massive layoffs right now. We need software engineers. We need programmers. We need all of those things right now. So helping match people with relevant things that are going on now and in the future in manufacturing.
It's almost like giving like future employers like an advanced metric stat sheet that employers can look at.
100%. 100%.
The employer has to invest back in the employee. And that's what your guy did. And that goes a long way.
Well, and I'm glad you said that too, because again, it does take an investment. And we ask people all the time to come invest in my company, right? Right now, time has been more expensive than it's ever been, right?
Yeah.
Daycare is almost the same. So my son that's at University of Memphis right now, he went to the all boys Jesuit high school, right? Not cheap at all. but I was paying more in childcare for my youngest son than I was paying to put my kid through a Jesuit school, right?
Yeah.
And that's insane thinking about a person on a retail income or on, a fast food income. And we're asking people to make a time investment in our plant. And while they're here, make an investment in being the best person, produce a bunch of stuff, do all these different things. And then when it comes to investing in them, or it comes to letting them, maybe leave for an hour to go get their kid or whatever it may be, we're rigid, right? And then we're wondering why we can't find workers or why people are leaving. Man, it's simple stuff like that, just showing people that you care, that not only makes them keep coming back to work, but gives you a better quality of work while they are there.
Yeah. So, you're not an old man by any means, but man, the pace of change in technology.
My grades and my beer said otherwise.
Yeah. Count them, bring out the little micro ruler like that. The pace of change of technology in this industry has been incredible. Do you think your same pathway would have been the same if you'd walked into a machine shop today as you did back in the day?
I like to think it'd be better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. It was only 15 years ago or so, right? 16?
Yeah, but just the amount of automation working its way down to the smaller shops.
It's insane. It's insane. But I think honestly, if the amount of automation and robotics and all of those things that we have right now that people are beginning to slowly but surely adapt, I think it should be a lot faster. I probably would have maybe found the shop myself, right?
Okay.
Because what I'm finding when I go into these high schools and these middle schools, kids are a whole lot different these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom's generation, she leaned into working. Like my mom right now doesn't have to work. She's retired. But she works at Burlington Coat Factory and TJ Maxx, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
100% that. And it's that's that generation where, a lot of the self-worth came from working, right? And, along the years, mentalities have changed, whether for the good or the worse, but now kids are questioning everything. Why do I have to lift up this, 100-pound slug to put in that machine when I'm aware and I know that there's a robot that can do this?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now it's not even an idea of saving your body, right? It's I know that there are things out here that are built to do this, and I know that I'm not built to do this, right?
Yeah.
So that's the type of work that they're starting to lean into, the things that are more set up for a better quality of life for them, right? And even though, I don't have enough grades yet, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, I was still on that edge of, wanting to prove myself through work, but being scared to say, hey, why don't we do these things differently, right? And I think that is their superpower. I call them the screenagers. When I do my keynotes,
Call them the what?
The screenagers, right?
Screenagers,
yeah.
That's the best Marvel
trademark
superhero
that?
movie of
Yeah, I got t-shirts. You can get them, Drew Crowe, mfg.com/shop. But the screenagers, they are the people that are questioning everything. They've been given a voice online. As soon as they can make an account, they can talk and they can be an expert, right? And people are hearing them. So they're not wasting their breath and they're not wasting their time. They're questioning, why traditional systems have been that way. And when they get an answer that doesn't benefit the people, then they either want to change it or they want to get far away from it, And so I feel like, to answer your question again, this is probably what, if I wasn't in jail, I would have sought out, because of the nature of working with machines that worked with themselves and, working with robots, right?
Yeah. It's a different world out there.
If you go into a high school right now and you can build and program the Transformers, come on. All of them are coming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just the, the older generations that is job security and whatever, but kids are tired of trading their physical body for money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that puts a limit on how long you'll be able to do the things that you want to do in life. You know?
You see people you've connected with take the next step, or in terms of creating their own businesses? Because I think, you mentioned mom and pop shops. I mean, that literally describes a majority of manufacturing in the U.S.
Man.
And you see a lot of that where people get tired of working for somebody else. And, does that entrepreneurial streak exists in people who have never really been exposed to it?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think it kind of ties into your last question. Machines are getting more capable for cheaper, and they're getting smaller, right? So and they're getting huge too, but like there's it's like the cell phones, right? Remember when cell phones first came out and they had like the briefcase connected to it?
I still have one in my basement.
There you go.
It was like
right?
it was literally like the size of a loaf of bread.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
And
actually connects to the White House,
There
1978.
you
It had a
go.
little antenna on it. I thought
Right.
it was so cool when I had that
flying
thing.
the signal. But it was expensive. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I remember when DVD players first came out.
Yeah.
And like we didn't have one because it was so expensive to get one. And now they're obsolete. But like you watch movies on your phone, the phone that you had in the briefcase, they're so affordable for everybody to have their supercomputers, right?
Yeah.
There's literally nothing that you don't do with your phone these days, from open your garage, start your car, like everything, right? So machining, manufacturing, just everything that goes into our industry is becoming more accessible and more affordable for people to do with things like, My Skills app that's coming, with Titans, with YouTube that's out. People have access to learning how to run these machines as well. So they might not know how to, be a job shop and make a whole bunch of different stuff, but they know how to make what they like to make on their thing, and they're experts in that. I'll give you a quick case study. When I was teaching at Rankin Technical College in St. Louis, Missouri, I was starting to put out videos and kind of talk about what I was doing in the program. And one of my biggest videos is a video called "The Next Elon Musk is from the Hood." And I was basically saying that necessity is the mother of invention. And if you're from the hood or you're from the trailer park, there's a good opportunity that you're going to invent the next big thing that's going to change the world and make you filthy rich, right? That video took off, and a kid from the sticks saw me, and he called up to my program and he was like, "Hey, I'm eligible to graduate early. The kids in my high school are doing like they're not on anything. They don't have a career pathway. Can I get to your college?" I hooked him up with the financial aid department. He got a scholarship, graduated early. He started working at the in-house internship program for me. And I asked him what I always ask. Like I said about the roller coaster kid, I said, "What are you into?" And he like Balisong butterfly knives. You guys know what those are? So they got my phone out there, but they're just like a special kind of like knife, but it folds open like this and the blade comes out.
I know. I've seen those.
And
Yep.
they flip them and do a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. So he was into knife flipping, and he did like parkour. And he showed me the knife, and I said, "Well, what are these going for?" You know what I'm saying? And he was like, "Well, they can go anywhere up from, $500 to
Wow.
tens of twenties of thousands of dollars." And I said, "You want to make them?" And he didn't believe that he could. Showed him how to run the CNC machine, showed him how to do this stuff. He went back home. We weren't making the blades in school. He was hand sharpening the blades. And now Garrett's got his computer up. If you look up Revenge of Blades, Kyle Stoff, my student, bought a machine from the program from all the money that he was making on Instagram selling knives. And he's still on Instagram.
Yeah, he's got almost 6,000 followers.
6,000 followers. He's like one of the top guys at the knife conferences. And he's selling these knives. He's making almost $15,000 to $20,000 a month.
Yeah.
Making these knives that he learned to make as a 17-year-old kid. I don't even think he's old enough to drink. He just started getting a beard. I saw him the other day. Yeah,
I don't know how they flip those knives around like that.
I'm so
They'll
scared of
cut
him,
their hands
bro.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. He used to bring one into like a trainer in the class that didn't have the blade on it.
Yeah.
And I was still staying like 5 feet back. You know what I'm saying? But
Does
he's
he make
good at
one
it.
with like that opens and it's just a comb?
So funny.
Yeah, I got
thing.
one of those.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What I would do for it's all about tying kids into the material, right? And so we are a 5-semester program, and that 5th semester I made it a senior capstone project, right? And so I would get my 5th semester kids, and they would have to present me with a company, and they would have to make a product for this company, give me the blueprint, and then machine this, right? And so obviously Kyle already had a company, so I said it can't be Balisong butterfly knife, but you can make me something else. And he was like, "Okay, I'll make you one that the kind of like you press a button and it'll pop up spring loaded. And
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, we're still at college. We still have rules.
Yeah.
Make me a comb that way.
There
So
you go.
he did. He made me a
Yeah.
comb. I've still got it. It's really
Nice.
dope.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's funny. Well, in a way, you're the Capstone project kind of has people thinking like an entrepreneur a little bit.
100%. And really tying in, all of these things that they've been learning to something that they love, right?
Right.
So again, man, school gets boring. Sitting in the shop gets boring. Like, this is a sexy field, but it's a lot of unsexiness in it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So you got to find your wins and fight for your wins. And your first job might be somewhere in an industry that you're not extremely like into, but those skills will still get you to your next one, right? So don't slack off. Don't, stay in it as much as you can. Connect it to things that you like making. Get yourself a 3D printer. Like, I had a kid that was just a musclehead, like frat boy, you know what I'm saying? And he made a gym, and then he made like the triangle push-up bars. And he's not as successful as Kyle, but he's selling those. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right.
anything that you can have up here, you can make down here, and it could be not only a life changer financially for you, but in manufacturing, we're the job multiplier, right? So for every job we create 7 to 11 more jobs in auxiliary fields that have to support manufacturing. So if you think about something like that in a small rural town where deindustrialization has left it devastated, if you think about that in a place like St. Louis, where if I can get one person a job, or I can get one guy to start a business and he can hire 5 other guys, now we're turning zip codes around, and now we're turning school districts around. Now we got taxpayers, and the lights are staying on longer, and the streets are getting clean, and people feel safer,
Yeah, and that's where affordable homes usually are, right?
Come on, man. Absolutely.
So you're affiliated with New American Manufacturing Renaissance. Are we there yet, or are we still working toward that?
Great question. We're in the midst of it, man. And I think that this is a part of it. This He might want to put that up on the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's asked that before. And as you asked it, I'm surprised. Like, why hasn't anybody asked that? But yeah, I think this is something that we are in the cusp of. And I'd say that, a lot of people think that, yo, Drew, this is your company, this is you, but this is all of us, right?
Yeah.
If you think about what we're doing right now, this is New American Manufacturing Renaissance. We're in new media. We're in the podcasting space. Manufacturing and podcasting were light years apart for a long time. But how are we going to get to the next generation and the mediums that they're used to listening to and the vehicles that they're used to consuming? And so things like this, the effort that you all put into it, like the more that we do this, the more that people see it, the more that other companies try to copy off of it, the more that even my talk track, people are like, oh, workforce. The cream's going to rise to the top. But if we're all talking about it, then at least it's on people's minds, right? So, y'all keep up the good work. Automation, the robotics, we're all play a part in this thing. But the thing that's going to keep us going is the consistency.
Yeah. And
continuing to do this stuff and continue to move forward, continuing to collaborate, continue to be intentional about the topics that we talk about the people that we let talk about certain topics when you have a platform. So yeah, it's here. We're moving in it, and hopefully we never have to have another one.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully I can work myself out of a job. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Until we don't need a renaissance.
There you go. You got anything to say, Garrett?
Yeah, man, we got to talk about the MFG chain, right?
Let's get it. Let's get it. Yeah.
What are we going to talk about?
Well, I mean,
Gareth wants to try it out.
It looks pretty obvious to me.
No, you went from working as a machinist, and then given the opportunity to speak in front of folks, and then you're like, people are coming to me now to be an advocate. When did you come up with the MFG moniker, and when did you get comfortable like talking about it when you didn't see this as a career path or a life path?
Man, great question. Not as good as his, but
Thank you. Drew knows where it's at.
When I first started learning CAD CAM and 3D design, again, trying to connect it to something that I knew so that I could learn it more. And at the time, I'm from St. Louis, and y'all know Nelly had a song called Let Me See Your Grills, right? And so there was a opportunity for me to open a shop that we sold grills and custom jewelry out of, right? And I was using my CAD design to make custom pieces for people that would come in and shop, right? So my custom pieces started being like really like I used to get real ignorant with stuff like outlandish stuff like like a grill when you close your mouth, the arches right here and the cityscape. Like
Wow,
I was
wow.
making some really cool stuff.
Actually,
right?
Dan was looking for one of those.
You know what? I might have him one.
Replace his bridge.
But hey, stlgrills.com. We are still in existence. We're popping.
Wow.
Order online. We'll send you a mode. But that's kind of where it started, right? Like, how can I hone my skills where at the time, digital design for me was the widget that this company was making, right? And I couldn't be too flagrant with it, right? So that's where it kind of started. And then when I started teaching, as a matter of fact, came in one day and they had the MFG written on the board. And I was like, what's up with this? And they were like, you the MFG. And I was like, well, tell me what that stands for. And everybody else had a different thing that this acronym meant about me to them. And they were all special. So I was like, all right, I guess, I'm the MFG now. So as I would go and like start my tour, and I would say that like middle school kids would come up to me and be like, I know what MFG stands for, so now it's like a thing, you know what I'm saying? And now it's to the point where like I let people put their own connotation on what it stands for. So as it kind of took its own life, I had to get a chain.
There you go.
And what better way to market what we do or to have kids or just people that are like, when I wear it, what's the MFG? What is that? And it gives me the opportunity to talk about what I do in my story and, how this came from a 3D design that I made and they can do it too. And, it gets eyes and gets a conversation going.
That's a perfect crossover from the industry to like, serving a different, culture. Right?
Yes, 100%. And them seeing something that, is like something they strive for. It's like, bro, you can make this.
Yeah.
Let me teach you how. You know what I'm saying?
Opens the door to curiosity.
100%. 100%.
But to me, it's like authentic.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't ask the question. He's just being himself. Got to be all nosy.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Andy?
I'm good.
You've done well.
It was a great story.
I think you added a human element to this interview that I think I might have skipped
I just
over.
want to know how many guys went from the street to MIT.
Come on, man.
Becoming a consultant. It's such a great story.
Thank you. And I hope that it doesn't stop here. You know what I'm saying? I told somebody this the other day that I hope that my story becomes our story. This is a story of American manufacturing and what it can do for people so that I'm not the last person from the streets that can make that situation happen. And, hopefully less people say the streets are going to be my option. I got a career opportunity over here and it's attainable. So they don't even make that shift, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah.
It's a we thing, not a me thing.
Let's get it.
All right. So where can they find information about you and your work?
You can go to drewcrowemfg.com. I've got free workbooks for industry looking to recruit and retain. It's got action plans. It's got step-by-step, real easy things for you to do. I do webinars on each chapter in that book so they can catch me there. I also come out and do like 3-day intensive group trainings for manufacturing companies and help them build out that system to make sure that their pipeline is popping so we can get from TikTok to the toolbox, you know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, if you are a job seeker, if you are a student, I've got a workbook on there for you called the MFG Hustle, how to become a blue collar baller or boss lady. And that's a step-by-step guide of how I did it, how you can do it, and you can go from the streets to the C-suites, just like me. Drew Crowe MFG on all the platforms, or just ask somebody. They can point you to me. You know what I'm saying?
Man, he's way better on a mic than I am. All right. Rate, review, and roast.
You
can
can
roast
roast
that
us.
one. That's my new thing.
Okay.
Alliteration. Rate, review, roast. Us, where you find your podcast. If you have a comment, criticism, or a fan letter, send it to podcast@fmamfg.com. fmagroup.org. Man, that was a good time. Dude.
Thank you,
Thanks for
man.
coming
Y'all,
on.
thanks for having me.
I
Yo,
appreciate that.
I was a little nervous at first, but
Were you really?
y'all made it happen.
All
Because
right.
of Andy?
I threw you off.
Yeah.
Are you done recording or is it still?
No, this is going to be in it.
Oh,
This is it. Yeah, so, all right, we'll formally sign off, then we can do... I did remember how the end of that Fat Boys went. Stick 'em. Stick 'em.
Excuse me for my horrible rendition of that earlier.
I couldn't remember what they were saying. I thought it was hit it, and that wasn't it. That's a Beastie Boy.
Dan's been waiting for this moment.
Let's get it. Yo, and he came through. Yeah.
Boys.
All right, the end.
The Fabricator Podcast is a production of Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, located in Elgin, Illinois. The show is hosted by Dan Davis and the staff of FMA Communications. The podcast is produced by Gareth Slager and recorded and edited by Griffin Hammond and Dana Weicker. Sales support provided by Andy Flando. Additional production support by Elizabeth Gavin, Mike Owens, Billy Culpa, Pat Simon, Brandon Geyer, and me, Sarah Spring. Email us at podcast@fmamfg.org. Thank you for listening.
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.